Welcome to this new automotive news video for Thursday, March 12, 2026. And today we're going to talk about Alpine because their new electric SUV, the A390, is currently quite a colossal flop. We'll also cover Alpine in another story, as the brand still aims to sell cars in North America and explains how they plan to do it. We'll also talk about Honda, which just pulled what we call in the business a Stellantis move. That means they've radically changed their strategy when it comes to developing their electric vehicles, because they've simply decided to cancel the development of a large part of them and shift back to combustion engines. We'll then discuss ACC, Europe's leading manufacturer of electric car batteries, often called the Airbus of batteries. This adventure is becoming a nightmare for these French factories. And I have quite a few stories to tell you that come directly from the Secretary General of ACC, which shows that things really aren't going well. I hope you'll find this video interesting. As usual, if that's the case, don't hesitate to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for the next videos, and boosting this one. If the option appears for you, and by leaving a comment where you share your opinion on today's news, especially about Alpine, do you think the sales of the A390 will eventually go back up? Or do you think its career will end the way it started, meaning badly? In this video, I wanted to talk to you about Alpine, which, as a reminder, is moving towards a 100% electric lineup. On one side, there's the A290, which is the sports version of the electric Renault 5, and also the future electric A110 Berlinetta, which, by the way, just as a reminder, in parentheses, might not be only electric, because the Alpine engineers designed it so that it can still be easily adapted to a combustion engine. And finally, the A390 SUV, it's the brand's first SUV, it's 100% electric. And for now, it's a pretty big flop. Orders have been open since November 2025, and so far, as of February 2026, Alpine has only delivered 8 of them. So it's a very tough start for the A390. Obviously, it's entirely possible that this could change. Maybe in the coming months, its sales will take off. Still, in the meantime, all the ingredients for it to be a complete flop are there. This is an SUV that weighs over 2 tons sold by Alpine, a brand that built its reputation on selling cars. Ultra-light, sporty Berlinettes. Even the latest generation A110S, which are still heavier than the originals, weigh 1.1 tons, half the weight of an A390, so it's much heavier and also much bigger. Unrelated to the sporty spirit of the Berlinettes. The design is what it is. It's pretty sharp. Some people will love it, some people will hate it. What is certain is that it's less conventional than the design of most other SUVs sold by the Renault Group. And then the prices are quite high. It's sold starting at 67,120 euros. For performance that's not even that exceptional. 0 to 100 in 4.8 seconds with 400 horsepower. For the base version, the announced range is 557 km with an 89 kWh battery. For 5,000 euros less, you can get the Tesla Model Y Performance, which has 462 horsepower, much more powerful, but also much more efficient from 0 to 100 with only 3 seconds. 7 and an announced range of 580 km per hour. It's cheaper, more powerful, at least in a straight line, has better range, and a design that may not necessarily be more successful, but at least is more discreet. So it's going to be quite difficult for him to convince. Maybe with big price cuts, the Alpine A390 miracle will happen? Maybe especially thanks to the American market, since it's one of the models that was designed by Alpine to try to set up there and sell cars. By the way, regarding this project of expanding Alpine to the United States, we have some pretty interesting news. Since Philippe Kriff, the director of Alpine, confirmed that the future A110, which is set to arrive on the European market in 2027, is currently being tested and undergoing approval so it can be sold on the American market. So Alpine's American plans are still in place, even if they've been delayed a little, because Alpine was hoping to get there as early as 2028, especially thanks to the launch of 2 electric SUVs. It sounds crazy, but Alpine was planning to make another one alongside the A390 plans for a launch that have ultimately been delayed. A drop in demand for electric cars has been observed in both the United States and Canada. Philippe Kriff explained regarding the A110 that the global market for sports cars comparable to the A110 represented about 350,000 sales per year. Nearly half are in the United States, making it a major growth opportunity for Alpine. What Philippe Kriff slightly forgot in his reasoning, though, is that yes, sports cars sell well in the United States, but not electric sports cars. And that's a bit of a global observation. For now, the market for electric sports cars is a market that hardly exists anywhere, or really in homeopathic doses, and there's still very little chance that it will be in the United States, which is one of the countries most resistant to electric cars, where electric sports car sales will take off quickly, unless Alpine is actually focusing on the combustion engine for its future A110, which we discussed in a video 2 days ago. The future A110 with its APP chassis will also be compatible with combustion engines. Although Alpine aims to promote it as a fully electric car, The electric A110 may be limited to Europe, with the combustion version offered in the United States. Since we're talking about electric cars and French cars, let's talk about ACC. ACC. It's the company that was created by Stellantis in partnership with Total, which was supposed to set up gigafactories all over Europe. Huge factories where electric car batteries are produced. ACC became the #1 European electric car battery manufacturer right after the former #1 Northvolt went bankrupt and left its place. Except that the adventure was also turning into a nightmare for ACC. So, what's happening? What happened is that we just learned that in one of its French factories in Nersac, in the Bordeaux region, which is not a production plant but a research facility. That means the manufacturers place orders with them, Nersac. Then, it's supposed to develop a battery that meets the specifications provided by the manufacturers, before these same batteries are put into production in ACC's factories in northern France. We just learned through Mathieu Hubert, the Secretary General of ACC, that this research center in Nersac will be temporarily paused for a period of 3 years. For a very simple reason, there are fewer and fewer orders, meaning that fewer and fewer manufacturers are using ACC's services to develop new batteries, which is already not very good news in itself. That means orders are likely going elsewhere, not to European factories. And secondly, we learn from the same article, again from Mathieu Hubert, that his employees, those from Nersac, will be sent to reinforce the Douvrin factory in Hauts-de-France. A factory that makes batteries for the Peugeot i3008 or i5008 is struggling to increase production. We've discussed this factory many times before. There are orders for these vehicles, but they can't fulfill them because there's a much too large quantity of batteries produced there that are scrapped because they simply don't meet quality standards, which causes delivery times to skyrocket. Currently, if you visit Peugeot to buy an electric i3008 with long-range batteries, you place your order and your vehicle will be delivered between a year and a year and a half later if the situation doesn't get worse. What's interesting is that we learn why ramping up production is so difficult. It's because ACC invested in a set of machines that were already 10 years old. Machines that were no longer brand new and don't work like brand new machines anymore. Above all, machines the Chinese sold them, even though they couldn't operate them properly themselves. It strangely reminds me of what happened at Northvolt, which used to be the #1 battery company and went bankrupt. Among other reasons, also because they couldn't ramp up production, notably because they had bought Chinese tools, which seem to have been pre-sabotaged. Because of these dysfunctional tools, it becomes very difficult to stabilize the chemistry of the batteries that are made on site, which results in batteries that are much less efficient than what was announced. On paper, Mathieu Hubert gives us a figure: 35% energy loss on the products coming off these production lines, which means that for a claimed range of 700 kilometers, with 35% less, we're down to around 400. That's clearly not enough. So for these batteries to meet quality standards, that's why they're put through rigorous testing. And finally, let's talk about Honda, which is doing what Stellantis did. Remember, at the beginning of 2026, we talked about how Stellantis recorded exceptional charges of around $22 billion related to the cancellation of several electric vehicles and the group's shift back to combustion engines. Well, it's exactly the same at Honda. They just announced an exceptional charge of about $15.7 billion. So we might not realize it, but that's really huge for a brand like Honda, which is far from being as massive as the Stellantis group. An exceptional charge that is justified mainly by the cancellation of several electric car projects. The Zero Series is Honda's line of 100% electric vehicles called Zero for Zero Emissions. There was supposed to be an SUV model and a sedan model, but that's been canceled, as well as the electric version. For example, the Acura RSX, unavailable in Europe as it's exclusive to the American market. These models were halted at the last minute, though they were set to launch in early 2026. A cancellation that, according to Honda, is due to the slowdown in demand for electric vehicles, especially in the North American market. Honda still has a large market and, like Stellantis, focuses on gasoline and hybrid vehicles, but still explaining, unlike Stellantis, that it believes electric vehicles will be a relevant solution in the long term. But for now, the demand just isn't there. It's a little different from Stellantis, which is pretty much convinced that electric cars have no real commercial future. It's still yet another major car group announcing a major strategic shift like this in recent months. Ford did something similar, and it cost them $19 billion. General Motors did the same, costing $9 billion, and recently Porsche did the same for $5 billion. So for now, electric cars mean a lot of tears, a lot of suffering, a lot of effort, and very little comfort for traditional car manufacturers. That's it for today's news. I hope you found the video interesting. If that's the case, as usual, don't hesitate to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for the next videos, or supporting the channel by clicking the join button below. We'll see each other again tomorrow for the next automotive news review. Take care. Bye.